I have such a deep understanding of why people do what they do. I understand emotions, you know. I can understand why people bomb buildings, why, you know, mass shootings can occur. And I understand the perfection of it all. And I know that sounds like a really weird thing, but it's something that I really want to share. And you know, write down, I think about the emotional guidance scale that Abraham Hicks shares with us, and everybody's felt powerless or out of control at some stage of their life, and you can use it as a springboard to change. You can allow depression to just run its course naturally without trying to change it or shift it. You can use anger to get relief. You know, this is where we usually stop people. We say anger is bad, anger is wrong, and so we send them back into depression and powerlessness and guilt and shame about how they're feeling. But anger is a good emotion in its place. It allows us to get relief from that powerlessness that we've felt before. And then even revenge, you know, understanding that process of revenge, to run through revenge in your mind. I mean, the funniest revenge story I can think of, I heard a story about a lady who was just felt so out of control that her husband was divorcing her that she went back into the apartment and very quietly with a pair of scissors took out the crutch out of every pair of pants that he owned. And it made me laugh, because I mean, that's revenge, you know, a real distinct revenge at its finest almost, that she felt so out of control. You don't even have to understand why people do what they do to be able to have an acceptance of it, though. You don't have to. You just have a belief that everything is useful in its place, and that the more attention you give to it, the more time you spend making it wrong, the more you get stuck in that emotion yourself. And, you know, people who are blaming others, that's an appropriate place to be. If they've been depressed, or if they've got something happening in their life that really makes them feel out of control, blame is appropriate, because it gives them just a little bit more juice. It takes them away from the guilt they feel about creating something in their life that they've created. So I just so understand all of these things, and I just know that it's appropriate to let people express negativity even. Don't try and change them. They'll move through it naturally. God, Source, our spirit is automatically calling all of us home to a better feeling place. And we can't judge the journey that somebody else is taking. And I think in many cases, there's no point trying to shift them in that journey unless you're in a place where you're really inspired to say something. Sometimes we get bogged down into it, and you know, because you feel really bad when you get bogged down into it. And sometimes even being bored, you know, sometimes kids are bored. Well, that's a place of stillness. Boredom is a place of stillness, and there's been a lot of ruckus going on in parts of their life. Boredom is sometimes a really pleasant place to get to. But the emotion that you can get to, no matter where you've been on the negative side of the emotions or on that expanding side of emotions, the one that I can always get to easily is hope. Hope. To hope that things are change. Hope that you really are expanding. Hope that everything will improve. Hope that you'll be given a sign. And you know, in every case, whenever I've got to that hope, I'm always given a sign. The universe always gives me a sign that takes me to a more positive place. It's nice to get to that more positive place, isn't it? You know, then you can relax into that sense of peacefulness, that peace that passes all understanding. And then float into a state of bliss. Bliss, I love that one. And resonate fully with joy. And surge into elation. Oh my goodness, that rush, that surge of elation and exhilaration. And you can escalate easily using your mind to appreciation. Appreciation is a wonderful sort of state. Can you tell what I'm doing? I'm bringing the emotional scale with me, and I'm keeping on raising it using these words. And you can create powerful momentum with passion, with that, bringing that passion into your life. You're always passionate about something. It might be a topic. You might be passionate about talking about depression. It doesn't matter. That passion is a higher energy. And I particularly like those moments of ecstasy. You know, most people experience those through sex or through orgasm or through romance, that ecstasy, that incredible ecstasy. Never make sex wrong. Never make it. Don't let it just be the only place that you experience ecstasy though. You can bring ecstasy into so many other areas of life. And then just sink totally into that feeling of love for all of life, that love and acceptance for everything that is, that knowing the perfection of life just as it is without having to change anything. Whew, that's the emotional scale. That's the emotional scale, from powerlessness all the way up through to hope, to love. I love using that scale if ever I get stuck in an emotion. I love using that scale. And you know, it helps me understand why other people are expressing things the way they're expressing. I grew up learning how to understand what anger meant. And instead of pushing somebody back down to guilt and shame about it all, to allow them to experience that anger. It doesn't mean you stand there and let them rant and rave at you. Just move off, but don't talk about it. Don't make it wrong. Don't send them to anger management classes. Just allow them to be and move out of the way. And the more we allow people to move through their emotions, the best it is that nature takes its course. I mean, doesn't it make sense? God is always calling us home. Source is always calling us home. Not just us, every person on the planet has that inner guidance, has that spirit that calls them to a better feeling place. I just love knowing that. I love being able to allow people their emotions. It's just such a beautiful thing.